I have to say that while I was excited to try out a new robot vacuum, I wasn't thinking that it was really gonna change my life. I've been using and testing the Ultenic T10 vacuum for the last 2 weeks to see how it stacks up against my 2 German Shepherds. As someone who's had Roombas for years, I was shocked the difference that having a modern robot vacuum could make. In this honest review, I'm gonna give you every positive and negative that I've experienced over these last couple weeks. If you're familiar with the channel, we focus on our lives around our German Shepherds. Most of the people that watch my channel have German Shepherds. While most people probably have a use for a vacuum, or even if they think they don't, they do. German Shepherd owners, we're a little bit different. I'm pretty sure it goes like food, shelter, vacuum. Honestly, I'm just gonna tell you how my experience has been over the last 2 weeks. As somebody who's had Roombas for years, I've got a pretty good feeling about how well a robot vacuum works. Now, the one thing I won't be able to go over is longevity. Obviously, I've only had this a couple weeks, so I can't speak for how to do 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. What I will say though is if you're watching this in the future, I will pin the first comment or I'll put it in the notes. I'll do an update. I've already put it in my phone calendar 6 months from now, and then I'll do another one at a year and give you guys updates. So look down there and it'll be something like, everything's still good, or it sucks, or this broke, or this is awesome, whatever. I'll just kind of give you guys some more of a longevity update on those, just so in case you're wondering, does it last? I was actually pretty excited when Ultenic reached out and asked if I would like to review one of their robot vacuums. In the 2+ years that this channel's been around, I've accepted 3 products to do reviews. And this is only the second one I've actually made a video on, because one of those products I was like, this thing sucks. Like, I'll make a video for you guys, but it's not gonna be pleasant. I turn down products all the time, but our Roombas, they're getting a little up there in age, could definitely use an update. Frankly, who doesn't need an extra vacuum when you have 2 German Shepherds? I mean, that's just fact. So this is one of the few instances where I was like, yeah, absolutely. I will gladly review a product and let you know what I think. So let's talk about the Ultenic T10. I have to say that while I was excited to try out a new robot vacuum, since our Roomba is several years old at this point, I wasn't thinking that it was really gonna change my life. And I mean, change your life is kind of a strong word, but I never realized how much the emptying out Roomba was hindering my ability to use it. What dawned on me is that after a few days, it was like, I don't have to do anything with this other than telling it to run when I want to run, because I don't run them on a schedule because my schedule kind of fluctuates. So I always manually tell them to start when I'm like leaving the house or something. I realized that other than telling it to start, I never had to interact with it. Yeah, sure, there was a couple times where it got stuck, but they all do that occasionally. But the house has never been cleaner consistently, and I just never had to think about it. And on top of that, I realized that I went days without using the Dyson vacuum, which has never happened. Our Dyson gets used so much that when it broke, it was under warranty and they were sending us a new one, but it was gonna take a few days. I couldn't wait that long. I went out and bought another one. And now we have 2 Dysons because I couldn't go a few days without Dyson. That would just, our house was gonna become destroyed, even with Roomba. And I realized that that's because the Roomba that we have kind of sucks apparently. Even though it was the top of the line model several years ago, having to empty it every day seems like such a minuscule thing to complain about. But now that I don't have to do it, I don't ever want to go back. Now, the one thing is when this self-empties, it empties into a bag. That's, okay, yeah, it kind of sucks. You got to buy extra bags. They do give you a few in the box. They say they can last up to 2 months. I think with all the fur, we may not get that far, but we'll see. If you don't know anything about vacuums, for them to go bagless, they would have had to either make the container hold a lot less or make the container a lot larger. And it's already a pretty good size, so I'm okay with the bags personally. The other difference is, for some reason, Roomba hates our rugs and just wants to eat up the sides of them, where, first of all, this vacuum doesn't for some reason, so that's good. Now that could just be coincidence with our Roomba, but what I fully expected to do was have to zone off, because that's what I have to do with Roomba. Roomba has these little things you set up, but these things are kind of pricey, and we only have a couple of them, and they only go like in a straight line unless you do like a weird thing. So like, no matter what I do, Roomba's always still kind of getting near the rugs. That's the other reason that sometimes I'm like, I'm just not gonna run him, because I don't want him tearing up the rugs. With this, I can just go in and literally go zone off the rugs and it just doesn't go on them. But thankfully, it hasn't even been an issue. And lastly, the noise. Now, as somebody whose parents own a cleaning business, I can tell you that all vacuums get louder with time. So I expect that over time, this will get louder. But my gosh, it is so much quieter than Roomba. And again, our Roomba probably has gotten a little bit louder over the years, but It is so much quieter, and you can lower the power setting. It has 3 different settings, which is super nice. Where we have mostly hardwood, I keep it on the lowest setting. It makes it to where I'm okay with it running when I'm in the house. Whereas before, even if I'm in the other room, like they're just so loud, like I don't even want to hear them. Part of the reason why I always run them when we're leaving. But with this one, it doesn't bother me as much. So while I still mostly just run it when we leave, being able to adjust the power setting has been a huge thing for me because I can just keep it on the lowest setting. Maybe it misses a speck of dirt here and there because it's not on the highest setting. And I would much rather have that. Now, as much as I've loved having this vacuum around, again, completely shocked how much of a difference having a modern vacuum has made in my life. It hasn't been all perfect. I don't think any of them are, but I wanted to just kind of go over some of the things that I've observed that may make a difference to you. First, the app is laughable. I mean, it is not good. I don't know what apps cost to make. I can't make an app, but I feel like if I did Google, watch some YouTube videos on how to make an app, and I made an app, it would probably look like this. Awful, awful app. That said, it does what you need it to do, I guess, but if you've used Roomba's app or frankly, any other app in existence, you're gonna be a little shocked. I mean, this looks like something you'd see on like an Atari or something. If you don't know what Atari is, you can Google that. I'm too young for Atari too, but I vaguely kind of remember it almost, sort of. Anyways, that is the first thing. I mean, it gets the job done, but it's sketchy. Despite all the intelligence, it's still gotten stuck a few times. I don't think this is specific to this vacuum. Our Roombas get stuck. It just kind of happens. I don't know that a robot vacuum exists that isn't going to get stuck, especially when you have like pups or kids or things where things are getting moved around and such. There was never anything where it's like, wow, I can't believe it got stuck there. I mean, every time it got stuck, it was like, yeah, I could see that happening. Oddly, it doesn't like to be docked on carpet. Now you can see here that like I have it docked on the carpet. For the first week or so, I did it in the kitchen because per the suggestions, and the company even tells you that in the manual and everything. But I was like, well, I really want to see like what it does because it vacuums carpet fine. It's just something to do with the dock. And the only thing I've noticed over the last few week or so is that there have been a couple instances where like I've been in here like watching TV or something, and suddenly like I hear the vacuum starts making noise and like nobody's near it or anything. And basically it just like needed to readjust itself. It like undocked and repositioned and docked, and it was fine again. So something to do with the way it lines up. Keep that in mind if you have a house full of carpet. Chances are you have at least one room in your house that isn't carpet. Now, that being said, you probably wouldn't want to put it on carpet anyways. If you're going to use the mop feature, which I'll talk about that in a minute, kind of makes more sense. You really wouldn't want that than docking on carpet, especially if you're not home, because then the wet mop is sitting on your carpet. So you really wouldn't want that anyways, to be completely honest. Let's talk about the mopping. To be honest, we used this vacuum for a couple weeks and I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of it. So I started writing out what I wanted to talk about and kind of doing everything. And at the last minute, I was like, I probably should look through the manual and stuff and the features, just make sure I'm not missing something. And I'm going through and I was like, oh yeah, the mop. Like I completely forgot I even had that ability. Because it's just not something I'm used to thinking. I know that's more of a common thing now where these robot vacuums do both. But we've always had separate Roomba and Roomba mop. For the last day, I've been messing with the mop settings and seeing how it does. And I will say this, that if you're like us where you already have a separate little robot mop, I would much rather have that because I just think it's easier to have them separate. That being said, those little separate robot mops cost like $200. So by all means, I would just use the one that's built in. It works really well. It cleans, as far as I can tell, it cleans just as good as our mop Roomba. It has reusable pads, which is nice because mop Roomba doesn't have that unless you want to buy like aftermarket. So that in itself is nice. It has your whole house mapped out and everything so you can tell where you want it to mop. I think you can even go as far as to have it vacuum and mop on a schedule, but that I don't think I would want. I don't want a wet mop pad sitting under my vacuum for days on end and stuff like that. Just no, I wouldn't want to do that. But every so many days, if you want to slap the mop pad on there and fill it up with water and let it mop, why not? And you don't have to like move the dock or anything. Like if you do want to dock it on carpet, if you are doing something like that, like even when I had it in here, I just carried it in the kitchen like I do mop Roomba and hit start and it was good. All right, so in conclusion, should you buy the Ultenic T10? With the exclusive discount code that Ultenic is offering all of my subscribers, which is linked below, you can get this vacuum for $409. So if you wanted to go the Roomba route and get the same amount of features, you'd be spending $800. That's a lot of money. Yeah, I know there's some issues where the app isn't very pretty, has issues docking on carpet, but if I needed to go out and buy a robot vacuum and I didn't own any, hard to beat the value. It picks up everything. Our house has never been cleaner because we're able to run it constantly. I'm not having to worry about vacuuming it out, so I'm able to run it more frequently. If you're interested, like I said, I'll link it below with the code. Use the code, you can get it for $409. Drop a comment. If you end up getting one, drop a comment and let me know how it's working for you.